Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you are joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We review one of the topics from the enterprise software community, one vendor or the solution. And for today, we have SAP IBP, which is part of our supply chain portfolio, and we have reviewed a lot of different solutions. So this one is going to be equally interesting. Before we dig into that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my quick intro. Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. Andy, do you want to introduce yourself next?
I would love to, Sam. My name is Andy Pratico. I've been involved with ERP software for manufacturers all my life. I've also written a book. It helps companies evaluate ERP software and uncover the truth before they buy. So thank you so much.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Andy. Shrestha, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name is Shrestha Dash, and I'm part of the marketing team at Elevate IQ. And I'm super excited to be here today.
Okay, amazing, guys. So thank you so much once again for being here. And if you're in the audience and joining for the first time, make sure you guys post your questions, comments, whatever stories you might have. We typically utilize them during our review. So excited to review those. On that note, I'm going to start with the quick briefing, guys, of the solution. So as I had mentioned, this is part of that the whole supply chain suite portfolio, and supply chain suite and ERP suite. We have been talking about the differences with those. So this is going to be the supply chain suite, and from supply chain suite perspective, we discuss many different perspectives, and one perspective is going to be the three legs that we generally like to talk about, which is going to be your the whole planning, execution, and network. And in this particular case, this is probably going to be comparable to Oracle Gmentra, and that's what we had discussed last time. So there are layers to it in terms of how much network they are going to have, how much execution they are going to have, as well as planning. Obviously, if you talk to SAP, they are going to position that they have fairly comparable capabilities, compared to any of the leading solutions in the market. But when you are going to look under the hood, the capabilities are not going to be similar, especially if you look at the pure play supply chain suite vendors. And that's why you would notice that E2 Open, Blue Yonder, you are going to see them a lot more installed in both ecosystems, SAP as well as Oracle. For today, we are discussing SAP IBP. So generally, customers have a choice to make between SAP IBP versus some of the best of breed solutions. So depending upon what their preferences are going to be, in general, if they go for something like SAP IBP, then they are getting a little bit of integration, out of the box. From SAP perspective, you are dealing with one vendor, but again, the capabilities are probably not going to be similar. So overall, I guess in my mind, the way SAP IBP is positioned, it is going to have the whole analytics planning component, which is generally easy. The components that probably SAP IBP is not going to have. And again, this is part of that whole SAP S4HANA portfolio. So when you are going to buy SAP S4HANA, they are going to include all of these solutions. So they are collectively referred to as SAP S4HANA, but it's a bundle of many different solutions. Some of those are going to be part of your ERP suite, and some are going to be best of breed systems combining many different suites. So in this particular case, obviously this is going to be part of that whole supply chain suite. The architecture, the design of the suite might be slightly different from the SAP perspective, but they have a lot of best of breed solutions included as part of their portfolio. Oracle has taken very similar approach, and that's what we saw with Oracle Dementra, which is now called Oracle Demand Management Cloud. That is all part of now Oracle Cloud ERP. So in this particular case as well, again, very, very, very similar approach as the way Oracle is approaching. Some background here overall from the SAP perspective, the way Oracle used to call Dementra, here SAP used to call this APO. But again, with Oracle, I think one of the differences that we saw that they are far deeper in the trade promotions planning. Obviously, SAP is going to claim that as well. But I think Oracle has a lot more logos in general in retail CPG space. SAP is going to have a lot more logos in the distribution, a little bit of manufacturing, and depending upon the verticals, but generally the complex products, I think SAP is going to have a lot more logos. That's what we notice. And that's why SAP is not going to have as much pure play retail functionality, such as your trade promotions planning, etc. You would not notice that they are going to have different functionality from the global supply chain planning perspective. If you look at some of the user comments, they are probably going to feel that this is more of the demand planning tool, and they are not going to have as much statistical forecasting options, and that is the term used in the supply chain community. So again, if somebody has used enterprise grade supply chain suite, they are going to feel that this is slightly limited compared to your E2 Open Blue Yonder. I would say O9 is another one, and then Anaplan. I think those are real enterprise grade supply chain solutions. This is great, but I mean, it's not going to have as deep capabilities, from the supply chain planning perspective. Competing technologies, obviously we have reviewed a lot of them. Oracle Dementra we reviewed last week. Info Nexus, again, they have a little bit more network. With SAP, they are going to claim that they have Ariba, which is probably the largest business network, but in my mind that network is more P2P. They don't have all of those layers from the external supply chain perspective, and they are going to, and I don't know how much integration they have done, but that's not the complete network when you look at the pure play business network and pure play business network players. If you look at some of the collaboration happening, especially in the supply chain space, Thoma Bravo, which is the private equity, they have a lot of different supply chain solutions in their portfolio, and you would notice that they have collaboration between QAD and Anaplan. They have those two in their portfolio, as well as Coupa, which is slightly more P2P platform. Ariba is going to be comparable to that. So their network is going to be very similar to Coupa. Yes, from the P2P perspective, you are going to have some supply chain planning component, but it's not complete. It is going to give you visibility into spend, but that's not complete visibility when you look at the overarching supply chain. So again, very different perspective, but when you talk to any of the sales and marketing folks at SAP, they are going to say that they have business network, but that may not be comparable to the other solutions that we have reviewed. But most of the major ERP vendors, especially if they are going to do any sort of business and retail distribution manufacturing, they are probably going to have very similar capabilities. You have QAD, which also has similar capabilities, but more from the manufacturing perspective. IQMS, Dassault Systems, they are also going to have this. But again, I don't think they play in the retail space. SAP IBP is probably going to be used just a little bit in the retail space as well. If you look at the pure play competitors, they are probably going to be E2 Open, Blue Yonder, Connexus, Anaplan, Relics, Tools Group, Logility. Logility does a lot more. I would say they do a little bit of manufacturing as well, as far as my recollection goes, and then O9 is very enterprise grade as well. So again, these are very pure play supply chain suite vendors. They all are going to be installed alongside Microsoft, SAP, Oracle. They have far deeper capabilities in general from the supply chain suite perspective than the ERP vendors. Some of the industries where you are going to notice this, they are doing some business in pharma. My understanding was that Oracle did far more business in pharma, but seems like SAP IBP is present there as well. Manufacturing is definitely a natural choice. Wherever you are going to have the larger workloads from the SAP perspective, you are definitely going to find SAP IBP there. But the kind of scale that SAP is dealing with, most of them are probably going to have best of breed architecture. So you are going to find a lot of different players in the market that are probably going to be part of the architecture. They are also present in consumer goods, but I don't know if they have all of those capabilities that you are going to find, for example, with Relics or with your even Oracle Dementra had far deeper capabilities from the consumer goods as well as retail perspective. Consumer electronic software, we have seen some logos from the SAP perspective. It's definitely utilized there. Finance is very interesting. I would guess that Oracle is going to have a lot more presence in finance, but seems like SAP is being used there as well. And then chemicals, which is a very complex vertical, and we have seen some logos there too. Now, we have touched on this one, that trade promotions planning is not going to be as robust as you are going to find with Oracle and several other tools that we have reviewed. So you're not going to find that just because, again, SAP IBP does not have the pure play retail capabilities as much as you're going to find with slightly more retail focused solutions. And I think we have already touched on this point, so I'm not going to cover that. So now let's keep moving unless you guys have any other comments. Okay, so these are some of the case studies, and I think we have already touched on this particular point. So here, this one is Mexican household appliances company, and one thing that you are going to notice is SAP generally has a lot more presence outside of North America, especially in countries where you are not going to have any other solutions. So, for example, let's say if you go to South America, Europe, Asia, any of the countries that are going to have very complex financials, very complex processes, in general, SAP is going to have a lot more presence there. So you are going to notice a lot more logo outside of North America with SAP. So here they are saying, this is the Mexican company, and they are saying part of our digital supply chain transformation. MABE streamlined these processes using SAP Business Network integrated with SAP IBP. They are calling this SAP Business Network, and they are saying, using manual means to collaborate with direct materials suppliers on production planning, inventory, and quality processes. In my mind, this is a very P2P centric process. So this would be more of the Ariba sort of play, but they are using the analytics from the SAP IBP as well. So again, the network is going to be very limited in my mind, because the only thing you are getting is those direct, material supplier, which is a very limited view from the supply chain perspective. So they are doing easily evaluate demand, make production plans, share those plans with suppliers, and obtain suppliers commitments. So they are doing a lot more supplier collaboration piece, which we also saw with Infor Nexus, I would say. They do a lot of supplier collaboration, at least from the international perspective, international supply chain management. But again, this is not going to be the complete supply chain. This is going to be just the your sourcing vendor is what you're looking at. Yeah. But from the analytics perspective, you are going to have all of those technical capabilities that most solutions are going to have. The real differentiator is going to be in that network and the data that they are going to contain. This is another very interesting example. So here we are talking about agricultural machinery manufacturer. If you look at the vendors that are going to be present in this particular space, it's probably going to be in four. They are going to have heavy focus here, depending upon how large the company is. If that is going to be slightly bigger, let's say billions and billions of dollars, then you are probably going to find SAP a lot more in general. If it is smaller company, then probably in four, you might find IQMS, you might find QAD as well with those. But for the most part, this is probably uh, in force market segment, I would say. So here they are talking about production despite supply restrictions with unified supply chain. So I don't know if this is really going to be the unified supply chain, even though they are able to do, let's say, demand planning. It's probably not going to be complete in
Does
general.
this integrate with Unit 5 or
Integrate with what? Sorry,
Unit 5?
Unit 5.
Yeah, didn't I hear you just say? Maybe I misunderstood you.
You mean Unit 4? Are you referring to the ERP vendor? What is Unit 5?
Maybe it's Unit. Yeah, I thought I heard you say Unit 5, but I might have misunderstood what you're saying, Sam. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, Unit 5, I don't remember, what that is. So, no. So, in this particular case, we don't have any visibility here in terms of the integration, but for the most part, this is probably going to be just that um, the whole P2P sort of piece, and maybe a little bit of demand forecasting is what they are doing. And then we have BMS, which is a very large pharma player. So you are going to see a lot more either SAP or Oracle. In this particular case, this is probably SAP Shop. So they are saying by integrating SAP IBP, Fiori apps, and SAP BTP capabilities to co-innovate a unique, user experience for the BMS supply chain planning team during its transformation program that increased the productivity and efficiencies of BMS's clinical R&D and cell and gene therapy and supply chain operating model. Again, it seems to be a very SAP-centric shop, but they don't have real evidence whether they are getting the complete, SAP capability, complete supply chain capabilities that they are going to find through the best of breed, supply chain suite players. But if somebody is going to be pure play SAP shop and they don't necessarily care for all of those capabilities, they are probably going to be okay with this. So here, one of the things that you are going to notice is overall, I guess they are going to be far deeper in terms of the kind of algorithm that they are able to manage. So you are going to see a lot more capabilities in terms of the depth of the capabilities, the kind of competitions that they are able to perform. So that's where you are going to find the depth. You are not going to find breadth as such. And that's why probably in the SAP workloads, you are going to see a lot more players installed. You are going to require a lot more add-ons in general. But for the most part, when you look at the whole statistical capabilities, I guess that's where you're going to find a lot more terms. The planning capabilities are going to be far deeper in general that, I don't think we have seen with the other solutions when we reviewed those. So that's where I think that you are going to see a lot more. So one of the things is, the overall, they have spoken about the outlier detection, tested methods. So again, this is going to be more from the analysis perspective. They have the, probabilistic, methods such as your MAD. You have proximity-based methods, GB scan. You have outlier ensembles like isolation forest, I guess. So some very, very, very interesting capabilities there that I don't think we have seen with the other solutions so far. So that's where I see that, they have a lot more depth in general in terms of the competitions. And sometimes this is probably the reason why a lot of users feel that this is probably much more difficult to use because, in terms of the algorithm, it is probably going to be really deep. So that is probably going to increase your training time, etc. um, some of the things that we have seen, I don't think other solutions had this kind of depth. Even if you look at the layers that they are able to support from the safety stock drivers, or if you look at the forecasting accuracy as well, in that they have a lot more layers in general. So for example, let's say if you look at just the demand variability, they have variability from many different perspectives in terms of the levers that are going to be relevant from the variability perspective. So all of those are going to be covered as part of this solution. And just computing of safety stock, they are probably going to have any of the variables that can impact your safety stock calculation. They are able to forecast all of those independently. So which is very deep in general. In this particular case, it's going to be, for example, let's say if you're looking at safety stock per location, that's probably going to be there with most of the solutions, but depending upon how much consulting effort it is going to require in enabling that, and this functionality may be inbuilt as part of your SAP IBP. But again, this is going to be all recommendation, and which is what the term that Andy had used in one of the reviews. So it's really they are not necessarily doing the transactional planning. They are doing maybe daily or weekly planning. That's probably what you are going to get out of it. But depending upon what all is impacting your safety stock calculation, what all is impacting your demand forecasting, so you are going to have a lot more layers. You are going to have a lot more control to be able to forecast that independently.
So is this going to forecast the safety stock layers?
So there are many different layers from the safety stock perspective. So it is going to allow you to control all of those levers in terms of what are different variables that are impacting your safety stock. So just per location is just one. So here you are looking at demand variability per location. So let's say if you have two location, and demand could vary based on I don't know what all reasons, right? So here you are looking at independently controlling each of those demand and sort of forecasting, okay, what are going to be my coefficient that you have to use to be able to accurately forecast each of the location. So you have a lot more control in general in forecasting. But at the end of the day, you are probably computing just one or two numbers based on this analysis. So safety stock is one. The second is probably going to be your lead time. You are simply coming up with those numbers so that your ERP system can rely on those. But overall, from the forecast perspective, they are going to use a lot more internal data, external data, to be able to do the what if scenarios that you have to do and come up with those numbers. Yeah. So here we also have some more. For example, let's say if you look at transportation lead time and variability per location. So you are not only computing your safety stock, but you are also looking at you are segmenting your lead time. So lead time is going to be one as your whatever vendor lead time you have or supplier lead time. So that is one variability. But then you are also going to have transportation lead time per location, per port. How many different legs and hops that you might have. So you are able to compute all of that. But at the end of the day, you are computing the lead time for each of the part, each of the location that you have to input inside your ERP. Here you are doing the planning for all of those variables that impact your plan.
It's very, very complex.
It is very complex, and forecast, this is what is going to drive your inventory, and this is what is going to drive your supply chain planning. This is what is going to drive, okay, how many parts do you need to produce. So this is not necessarily intraday planning. This is the slightly more, I would not say macro. It's slightly deeper than macro. It's probably daily planning. I would say the perspective is different, but you are computing all of those variables that impact your supply chain planning. Because once you have this down, so let's say in the ideal world, if you know your lead times, your safety stock, uh, your transportation lead time, then you would probably not have any problems, right? But that's not how the real world works. And that's where you have to forecast this to be able to produce the right amount of inventory, to be able to produce the right product that can be positioned at the right locations. Um, so here you are doing transportation lead time, variability per location per product family, per location per product family. You have production lead time and variability per location. Um, yeah, this is your production lead time, so you are computing that as well, even though that is going to be in your control. But for the most part, you have to compute all of this. And this generally, let's say if you're going to be a very small vendor, you just don't have as much variability, and that's why you probably don't need to worry about this. But when you are going to be operating at a global scale, then you have real problems, because you are going to have interdependencies between your plans, you are going to have external dependencies, you are going to have supply chain disruptions. So all of those need to be counted as part of your planning algorithm. Okay. Now you have some more very interesting capabilities here, and some of these capabilities, for example, let's say if you go for slightly more technical tools such as your ANA plan, okay, so they might allow you to build whatever you want. They might not have these capabilities built, so you require a little bit of tribal knowledge, proprietary knowledge, to be able to model this. So this is what you are going to get, let's say if you go for SAP IBP, because that is going to be slightly more functional view. But then obviously that is going to increase your training time, because you need to understand, okay, how SAP is recommending planning and how you are going to be go from your point A to point B. So you would require learning, okay, how SAP is recommending, and if all of that is going to be relevant for you as well from your supply chain planning perspective. So that's where you are going to increase a little bit of consulting cost. With ANA plan, you are going to have a lot more flexibility, but then you are looking to build all of this yourself. So you are pretty much on your own. Okay, but I mean, this is a very interesting modeling as well. Here you are able to model the service level scenarios in terms of whatever SLAs that you might have, uh, whether you are looking at your internal KPIs in terms of the service level, or you are looking at key customers, customer groups, whatever service levels that you are measuring. You are able to accommodate all of that, not only at the customer level, also at the ABC code level, your product group, etc. So all of that you are able to do as part of the product itself, which is very deep capability. Again, when you compare this with ERP capabilities, they are designed to be different. Here, the perspective is going to be to output bunch of numbers that are going to be used by your ERP system. But again, here you are looking at very recommendation centric planning. Okay, so some more very interesting terms that they have used that we have not seen with any other solutions. They might have this, they might not have this. So here, obviously, you are able to do, for example, let's say if you look at lot size and lead time, so you are able to plan at the lot size level. You are looking at the lead time of that. So you are looking at something like PBR, T lead time, T minimum lot size, P lead time. So these are going to be numbers that you have to input inside your ERP system. But who comes up with those numbers? Those numbers is what is going to drive, whether you are going to make money or not. And coming up with the right numbers is always, rocket science, and that's where these tools can help you with that. This is going to be your periodic batch review, that you are sort of looking at the historical data and you are seeing, okay, what's the impact of when you change these numbers in terms of your production plan. So that's where you are going to do a lot more what if scenarios to come up with these numbers. Then you have T lead time, you have T minimum lot size. So there are many different terms. So for example, let's say if you look at the T lead time, that's going to be your total time from receiving an order to having it available to use. So that's the total time. But you can segment this further, and you can plan each specific component of that lead time as well, because the more granularity you are going to have from the planning perspective, the more control you are going to have on that. And then you are looking at T minimum lot size as well. You need to come up with the appropriate number that you are going to use, and based on that, you might have completely different production, completely different KPIs. So obviously you are coming up with these numbers to make sure that you are going to have the right amount of churns from the inventory perspective, right amount of production, as well as sales. So some very interesting terms that I don't think we have seen with other solutions so far. Okay, they have also used a term called gating factor. And again, I think this is going to be important more from the global workload perspective. So this is something called critical element or a constraint that determines the pace at which the processes can be completed. So again, you are doing a lot of buffer analysis, etc., but they are using that factor, and they are using that pretty much everywhere, wherever they are planning. So that's a very important metric as well. And common examples of gating factors is going to be your lead time, capacity constraints, any of the capacity constraints that you're going to have, supply reliability, demand variability, logistics and transportation, regulatory compliance, any of the inventory levels. So for all of that, they have the gating factors, which is a very interesting piece of functionality. Okay, this is a case study. This is coming from consumer goods. It's in New Zealand. The employee size is just 1,200, and here they are saying demand planning at FBNZ, is challenging due to the fluctuations in a fast-moving consumer goods environment. We have seen that, especially in the FMCG space, the supply chain is far more relevant in general. And here they are saying increased variations from trade promotions. But if you look at the comments, they have noted that they are probably using a different trade promotion system. So that's where the layers are going to be. I don't know how deep their capabilities are going to be from the trade promotions perspective. Oracle has very specific module for this, so that might be a difference in the SAP versus Oracle capabilities. So here they are saying real-time solution brings together demand, supply, and financial forecasting in line with companies' integrated business planning processes. Then they are saying SAP ERP central component, which is your SAP ECC for master data and incremental volume forecasting from its trade promotion management system. So sometimes they might use different best of breed systems, just because even among these systems they might use this for demand forecasting just because they like its algorithm a little bit more, but then they might use a best of breed trade promotion management system as well, depending upon the goals, whether they like the trade promotions functionality from SAP or not. So in general, when you look at the analytic system or the S&OP system, you can use multiple systems. It's not going to be as much impact as you are going to see. Let's say, for example, if you try to cobble together your ERP modules, that's a much heavier lift in general. For analytics, since you are simply computing a bunch of numbers, it's not going to be as much a problem from the integration perspective. You can technically use best of breed systems for your analytics workload if you want to do that. SAP ECC with forecasted trade spend from trade promotions management system. So they have used this, that they are getting this pricing and standard cost data from SAP ECC, but then they are getting the forecasted trade spend from your trade promotions management system. And by the way, they have only discussed about the trade spend. In general, obviously, when you look at the trade promotions, I think the only thing you are going to have is the trade spend, because that's where you are looking at your marketing development fund or business development fund that you are releasing to your retailers, manufacturers, and they are sort of based on that you are sort of doing your supply chain planning. And do you have a comment?
No.
Okay. So one more comment: this allowed the company to gain insights into planned revenue, discounts, trade spend, cost of goods sold, and standard gross margin at the customer and product levels across time in a single view. Again, very standard boilerplate from the S&OP perspective. I don't see much of a difference there. Okay, I'll keep going unless you guys have any comments.
Well, the only comment I was going to make is, obviously being an SAP product, it's going to be widespread in its functionality and diverse, and probably touch every aspect of the enterprise that a company can think about.
So depending upon how you define the diversity, Andy, yes, they are going to have a lot of different capabilities. They, as part of your SAP S/4HANA
Yeah.
bucket, they have a lot, but I don't think they are going to be as deep as some of the other best of breed solutions.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, let's say if you compare this with, and that's why companies that are going for SAP S/4HANA, it's very rare that they will go for SAP IBP, even though they have that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, they will go.
is there overlap?
I would say Blue Yonder is probably going to have much deeper,
Oh, okay,
capabilities,
gotcha.
especially if you are in the retail space.
Mm-hmm.
E2 Open is probably going to be much better.
Okay.
The kind of depth that they are going to have. These so, and again, that's where your supply chain suite and your ERP suite differ, right? So from the ERP perspective, these guys are going to be far deep, but they are not as deep from the supply chain suite perspective, and that's where your best of breed supply, because they are not trying to be, try to get into ERP market. ERP market is very different in general. When you get into the ERP market, then you are covering literally the whole world.
Well, look at this example: 220,000 employees.
Exactly. But I mean, ERP market is very different from the supply chain suite market. Supply
Right.
chain suite, that is going to be relevant only where you have a supply chain planning that is going to be relevant. So ERP vendors, they can never match the depth of the supply chain suite. So that's where the market is sort of divided. If you want the best of both worlds, then you go to ERP vendors, you get the ERP capabilities from that, and then if you are going to be in retail distribution supply chain space, then you are better off going, again, if you're going to be slightly more enterprise players, when you care for very deep supply chain planning, then you are better off going with Blue Yonder, or E2 Open, those solutions, and you are going to see a lot more cases where companies use those as opposed to getting everything from SAP or Oracle. Yeah. Okay. So here, this is Microsoft, and obviously Microsoft, has their own ERP, and they are using SAP IBP. Can you believe this?
Yeah, the fox is in the hen house.
Yeah, so they are running on SAP ERP, number one. Number two, they are using the supply chain solution from SAP. So obviously, overall, if you look at, Microsoft is not there yet, to be able to handle that Fortune 500 workload in a general. Even though a lot of people might claim that, Microsoft ERP is as good as SAP, that's not true at all. And they don't even have the S&OP component. I mean, you might have Relics that is doing a lot of business in the SAP ecosystem, but they don't have a real, S&OP or supply chain suite. There is a little bit of supply chain suite that is sort of built as part of your Microsoft ERP, but again, that's not the same as what you're going to find with your SAP Oracle, E2 Open, Blue Yonder. They have very different capabilities. Okay, so here Microsoft is actually using this. So they are saying, complex devices, supply chain with more than 42,000 active stock keeping units and 33 manufacturing and distribution centers, carrying out work in 108 countries. So obviously Microsoft is not able to handle this workload. Otherwise, they would use their own products, right? But they are not using that. Microsoft has, since going live with solutions, Microsoft has reshaped, its planner roles, and obviously this is all coming from the supply chain department. So their planners are using SAP, capture data from different legacy systems and multiple Excel worksheets. So that's how they were doing it before, but now they are using SAP IBP system. Microsoft also, I don't think they have any network whatsoever. SAP is going to have at least some network, so that's where the real differentiator is, from the SAP perspective. In general, Microsoft, SAP, they both have very close relationship, because SAP does not want to use anything from Oracle anymore, because Oracle has become much bigger, ERP vendor in general. So SAP is trying to align with Microsoft, and that's where, if you look at their programming languages and the databases, they are using a lot more Microsoft technology. Microsoft is using SAP's technologies to run its business. So a far deeper collaboration in general, between SAP and Microsoft. So here they are saying using SAP integrated planning, SAP business network for supply chain. So obviously Microsoft does not have that. Microsoft is going to claim that they have some network as well. There have been some conversations, but again, they are not there yet. Various scenarios, as well as create simulations and more realistic plans. This frees from the firefighting exercise of old and allows them to adopt a predictive planning approach, creating plans that better fit customers' expectations. In terms of planning cycle time, this now takes less than a day. Microsoft Soft has also seen a substantial increase in on-time planning as measured by the number of purchase orders created, transmitted, and confirmed. So, the kind of capabilities that they are talking about, it seems that they are talking about Ariba as well as your SAP IBP combined, which is a very P2P centric play. And obviously Ariba is probably one of the best systems out there for the enterprise grade P2P workloads. As a result, there has been a reduction of unconfirmed orders and a corresponding improvement in customer satisfaction. Now, planning the vast majority of its products through SAP integrated supply chain, SAP integrated business planning, and its own Azure tools. So, in general, if you notice, a lot of SAP workloads are deployed on Azure. So obviously they are using their own workloads, from the infrastructure perspective, but they're using SAP technology. I don't have anything else here. Okay. So I'll keep going here with respect to reviews. So this is, from 2023. In this particular case, this is the finance industry, which is very interesting. And obviously they have a lot of supply chain, as well, even though they are going to be, let's say, 10 billion to 30 billion dollar in revenue, but their supply chain workloads are probably not going to be as big. For example, let's say if you look at banking, they are doing a lot of things from the supply chain planning perspective, but it's never going to be similar to your retail outlets, because they have to move a lot more products in general. So here, this is coming from 2023, and they are saying a very comprehensive tool that helps in planning end-to-end business processes. It has a pool of well-defined modules under IVP that makes it ideal for businesses. It provides real-time analytics and accurate forecast, and is highly flexible in nature. It also offers amazing template customizations, and the dashboard are very intuitive too. Again, in this particular case, they are okay just because their supply chain planning is not going to be as deep in my mind, just because that is a finance company. They are not as deep in supply chain. And here, they had considered Alteryx, right? And that is slightly more data vendor. That is not even a supply chain vendor, to be completely honest. And then you have Microsoft and Logility, which is very interesting choices there. And I don't know what they have done, because Microsoft is using SAP, but these guys are looking at Microsoft, which is interesting. One area of improvement could be the demand sensing capabilities. Another is with the Excel interface that often has a lot of performance issues. In general, with any of the SAP solutions, they are not as friendly with Excel for whatever reason. They still cannot figure that out. So that's going to be given even with these tools, which are meant to be very Excel friendly, but seems like they have a lot of issues here with that. So one more review here coming from 2023, and here they are saying master production schedule for production material explosion, inventory policy, competition, and DRP. So those are all very S&OP centric capabilities that they have utilized. They are saying it is basic and easy to use application that can be linked to ERPs using simple SQL queries. Okay, so I think this is very on-prem world, and that's when they used to link using SQL queries. I don't think SAP is allowing that in the cloud workloads. So I think she was on APU, and that's why she's thinking that she is able to do that. But in the cloud world, in SAP S4HANA Cloud, they might not allow that. You have to go through BTP probably. And then they are saying SAP integrated business planning, and we know they are on the way, but those improvements have been slow to come to fruition. So they are looking for certain improvements. Obviously, they have outgrown some capabilities, but they are not able to find. So they are saying, although capacity management elements are enabled in SAP IBP, there is still room to make it completely useful for some sectors, and those sectors are going to be very deep in supply chain. That's where I think it's probably going to struggle. And that's your capacity across different products. So that's where the layers are, that they are probably not going to be as deep in their capabilities. I'll keep going here unless you guys have any comments. Um, so this is also mid-market, and in mid-market they are using 2023, and they are saying SAP integrated business planning is useful for trade promotion planning, which is very interesting, because with the other review we saw that, I mean, they are probably using external system. So I don't know, how much functionality they are going to have, from the trade promotion planning perspective. Maybe not for a real retail shop. They are saying demand management, future financial calculations, profit loss, inventory management, and effective manufacturing material planning. They are saying SAP IBP planning is a fantastic tool for preserving massive amounts of data, multi-linked tables, etc. We mostly use it in our project to track inventory, sales, refunds, and so on. And the simplicity of modifications made it helpful across the business for testing in any setting. So yeah, so very interesting comment there. But again, you know they are using this for mid market. Obviously, this is a very enterprise grade tool. So very interesting review. One more review. So this is enterprises probably aligned. So here they are saying it's output integration with Excel. So two comments related to the Excel capabilities. With Excel might be cumbersome at times. I wish it was more drag and drop than having to enter each individual line. So they are complaining about the Excel capabilities, and sometimes that could be an Excel interface, because you need to interface through your Excel, and these guys are trying to use that while connecting with your SAP, and that's where they are running into challenges, I guess. But when you are dealing with such massive workload, I don't know if Excel is probably going to be a good interface to be able to do that. So it might be a training issue. The platform should not be confined to corporate applications, but also be adaptable to emerging AI technologies in end and integration architecture for the same would be beneficial. And again, SAP is not going to provide that, okay? Even though they might claim that they have a little bit of integration architecture, enterprise architecture, but again, it's not their job. So that's what you need to do it yourself. You probably need to hire a bunch of consulting companies who might be able to help you with that. SAP's goal is to sell their products. Their goal is not necessarily to tell you, which technologies you might be able to use with SAP. I've seen numerous times when working in SAP IBP that it would crash. Can you believe this? And this is coming in 2023. I believe this is because it utilizes a lot of operating RAM. So depending upon where it is deployed, sometimes this could be your infrastructure. Sometimes if it is happening in cloud, then that is probably a serious problem. But in general, when you look at any of those planning workloads, they are going to require a lot more firepower in general. The kind of workloads that you are doing, you are spinning off massive databases, and I don't know if they can scale to your demands, to be completely honest. So again, that's where even systems such as SAP IBP are struggling. So you are probably going to have that issue with pretty much every single system out there. It slows down the procedure, has a lot of questions regarding the names. Yeah, sales team seems to have some sort of issue. So it looks like as if this is a training issue. This is not necessarily the product issue. They are saying we utilize IBP to estimate sales receivable from key account. So they are doing sales receivable planning, and that you need to plan as well, right? So it seems like they are able to combine both of these S&OP as well as a little bit of finance component. That's what we saw with Oracle as well, and that's where you are going to have the real connected planning. But I don't know if they are going to be as deep with respect to your connected planning capabilities as in a plan. But seems like they are able to do at least something there. Okay. Unless you guys have comment, I'll keep going here. So this is also coming from mid market, and it seems like we have seen a lot more logos in the mid market, right? Which is very interesting. My perception of SAP IBP would be that that is probably used in the large enterprises, but a lot of mid market companies are using this as well.
Yeah, I would have assumed it would be targeting the larger, but you're right. All of them are relatively under 1,000 employees.
Yeah. So depending upon, I would say, if they are a pure play SAP shop, there is a possibility that they might use it. So here they are saying solutions like subcontracting planning are not in place. Can you believe this? So this is going to be the real manufacturing, and we have seen the SAP in general being slightly on a weaker side for manufacturing. Their mid-market solutions, they don't have as much depth from the subcontracting perspective, even within their ERP. So I'm not surprised to see this, that they don't have this. And again, subcontracting planning, in my opinion, is going to be as big a variable as your vendors or your demand forecasting. So I don't know why they don't have that. Maybe it is not targeted for manufacturing, but seems very strange.
Well, yeah, there's subtle difference between a vendor and a subcontractor because they're actually doing a service for you.
No,
vendor could be purchasing materials, right?
Yeah, so subcontractor planning is going to be far more robust, right, Andy? That's because
Absolutely.
So if you look at different supply chain solutions, S&OP solutions, not everybody has capabilities from the manufacturing perspective. Like if you look at the demos, so I remember that Connexus had very BOM centric planning that we could not see in any other solutions. They are doing, hey, SKU location plan. BOM is very different, right? Because BOM is going to have a lot more dependent variable, and for each of those you need to plan, and finally you need to plan at the independent and dependent level. So again, manufacturing supply chain planning is very, very, very different, and seems like, I don't know whether SAP IBP is really used for that or not. Seems like a lot of CPG, pharma, agriculture, but not necessarily the deep manufacturing. Yeah. So very interesting comment, but pay attention to that. Ask about that, whether they can do, and at least in the demos, if you look at any of these screenshots, I'm not seeing a real bomb. So pay attention to that, if they can really do that. Manufacturing planning is very, very, very different, even from the supply chain planning perspective. Okay, so this is also mid-market, which is again very interesting. This is coming from 2020.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, the most frustrating part is that there was no out-of-the-box functionality to connect IBP directly to SAP when uploading forecast. This was available in APO, and it's a tough pill to swallow when the new system does not have basic functionality that was available in the old system. Again, guys, the architecture has changed completely. Okay, the way your old on-prem systems were designed, this is a new architecture. It requires a lot more enterprise architecture expertise, integration expertise, master data governance expertise, because now you are living in a very shared environment. The architecture is designed for shared environment, so you are not going to get the same capabilities. These capabilities are going to be very different, so don't expect the same capabilities that you had in the on-prem world. Okay, if you guys don't have any other comments, I'll keep going here. This is chemicals industry. This is enterprise 2019. And here they are saying only statistical forecasting, mass forecasting option. This was a great and important step ahead compared to your SAP APO. So there were some limitations there, but now you have a lot more capabilities from the statistical forecasting perspective. And then they are saying data load limitation, lack of visualization options, no algorithm name appearance on the Excel side. So the whole Excel interface capabilities are slightly on a weaker side. Please also note IBP has wide range of statistical forecasting algorithm, but it was designed to be a demand planning tool rather than a statistical software. So again, I think what they are referring to is that they don't have as deep, I call this as more of the S&OP capabilities, because I would assume that these capabilities are going to be there with most S&OP systems, but again, SAP is not going to have depth there. In case you are looking for more statistical forecasting tools, then this might not be the best fit, might fit your needs better, and if your focus is going to be on the statistical part.
If not statistical forecasting, what are they assuming the product is for?
So they are saying that this is only for demand planning. This is not necessarily for, yeah. Um, yeah. So the way I would read this as, I mean, they are looking for far more algorithm, I guess, in terms of how you are going to forecast, right? So they don't have those calculus like capabilities that you're going to see with other software. Yeah. To have a baseline forecast for each and every plant, product and customer combination globally, it started pretty roughly, but currently the global run is working without major problems. It is planned to be a demand planning software, not a statistical forecasting tool. Yet due to our role, we must use it for the it as a statistical forecasting as well. Yeah. What is the time now? 2:40. So 2:54 to 55. So we'll do one more and then we can cover your comments. Enterprise, this is coming from 2019. Dependency on SAP as a cloud platform admin is controlled by SAP. Need to raise ticket to SAP for any major issues. That's not a big deal. We are using SAP integration business planning for demand and supply planning. So nothing meaningful there, I guess, that I can hit on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So
Well, the thing I found most interesting is, it's obviously an SAP product, but it's not really designed to work alongside S4HANA.
no, it is definitely, it is part of the S4 HANA suite, but I think if you look at this more from the supply chain lenses, they are not going to find the same capabilities. Let's say if somebody has used something like Blue Yonder or E2
Right.
Open, it's not going to be as deep. That I think that's where the complaint is coming from.
Maybe
You are
that's
not going to have the comprehensive supply chain planning capabilities. So SAP has included that as part of their bucket because they don't want you to go anywhere else. But if you're looking for that best of breed experience where you get the real supply chain suite, then you need to go for the real supply chain suite as opposed to buying it from Oracle SAP. Oracle SAP, they are not necessarily, even though they are including it, but it's not meant to be a real supply chain suite. Even S&OP capabilities are not as deep. ANA plans, they are probably going to be really, really deep in all of this. Yeah. Yeah. More comments, Andy?
It's interesting that it's an SAP product, and yet, probably S4 HANA customers are going to be using third-party tools.
Yes. At mid-market, I don't think they have as much IT budget, because when you are going to get these best of breed tools, then you are looking for very complex integration, and then you are looking at a lot more expertise overall from the enterprise architecture perspective. So I don't know, how many resources that they are going to have, but you are easily looking at, a team of, let's say, 40, 50, 60 people, and you are looking at millions and millions of dollars, for the integration planning, etc. Yeah. Yeah. Mid-market customers, they don't have that kind of budget.
No, they don't. It's
Yeah.
completely different market.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and this is going to be just from the vendor resources. There's not even your internal resources. Yeah. Okay, Shrestha, do you have anything? Comments? You're on mute. If you're not able to do it, I can unmute you if you like. Okay. No, it's still mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I just feel like this product also needs a lot of expertise in order to use
Yeah.
it, as it's already providing templates. Now, if you don't have the user awareness to do that, then I feel like they're going to have challenges while doing that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, so you're completely right that you are going to require a lot more consulting training, because
Mm,
then you need to learn the SAP's way of doing this. And I guess that's where that comment was coming from, in terms of them thinking that this is going to be more of the calculus, the mathematical tool, the statistical tool. Now they are learning more of the SAP way. Hey, this is your gating factor, just define your gating factor, and then you are going to be good. So depending upon what you want, do you want a lot of flexibility? If you want a lot of flexibility, then this is probably not the right tool for you. If you want to do this in budget, then this is probably better. But again, you would require a lot more training, consulting. So it
yeah.
depends upon where you want to spend. Yeah. More comments, guys?
No, thank you very much, Sam.
Of course, guys. So if you guys don't have anything else, that's it. That's a wrap. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series, for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thank you, everybody.